And I really, after more than 1 year that I'm there to work, I really have a relation with the old artisans there. They are so old, and they are always talking to the golden age and all these things, and I feel they really love the old factory. So I think what remain now of this artisan, I think that remain like the knowledge that I see, like this skin, like this, that is made all of porcelain of different dimension. And everything became something that is organic, alive, like this skeleton with remain only some skin, some knowledge of this artisan. And I really don't have any course of ceramics, so I really invent a type of porcelain that can I can use more than 1 meter after the kiln, so I do a lot of experiment to do a new mix. Okay, these other things about, always you can see my relation with family, that, and how ceramic can, for me, is now transforming something different, like an organic element that is moving and is something different from something that in the past was very, that means safe. Usually ceramic we see on the center of the table like something very strong and safe. And so maybe we'll see in the future what will be from real and virtual. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
It was my first speech, so excuse me for mistakes.
Yeah.
Or
Thank you very much, Francesco. I don't want to preempt any discussion later because we do have a time allocation for that. But I am very interested in how the role of the artist within the industrial setting. I think we might move closer to the role of the artist within the museum with future speakers, but the issues of ethics and consumption are very much prevalent in our first two presentations. And I will now invite Cuculi Velarde to speak.
Hi, my name is Cuculi Velarde, and I am from Peru. And I thought it would be a good idea to show you where we are. That's the world on the right. My country is in the middle of South America. And that's Machu Picchu, which many people know. I am from Cusco, where Machu Picchu is. So that gives you an idea of the heritage that I carry, for good or bad sometimes. This is the city of Cusco, where you can see the collision of two worlds. The Inca wall on the left, the first floor is all Inca, and everything else on top is Spaniard construction, which to me is very much a metaphor of what colonization has meant to us. This is in Lima. We have so many churches with very Baroque decoration, and many of them are 400 years old, 300 years old, 200 years old. And Lima, which is the capital of Peru, also is a very modern city. Once I was asked how was my village, and I said, well, you know, my village has 10 million people in it. And there's a lot of poverty in Peru, and particularly in Lima. Peru is a mix of people. We have the indigenous population to which I come from, as you can see. These people that you see live in different parts of Peru, and thankfully they keep their heritage alive in spite of 400 years of colonization. These are people like me, mixed breeds. And religion, Catholic religion, is very important for us. Catholicism was a very effective weapon for defeating the cultures that were there before European entering our world and destroying it. I'm very, I'm very passionate about what colonization meant because I live it. I don't know how it is in Taiwan. I don't know your history very well. But for us, the coming of Europe was not a good thing. And sometimes people say, well, you know, you got all the wonderful things that Europe have developed, and I always wonder, tell me one thing that is worth it millions of people dying. And then they say, well, you know, remember the language, Spanish is so beautiful. I'm like, you know, it's not like we were mute before they came. Excuse me. But anyway, religion, Catholic religion is very beautiful visually, and that's all the beauty that it has. It's very dangerous at the same time. And the needs of creating have survived in spite of a very difficult history. And you can see the creation of people from different parts of Peru. Many of these are consumed by tourism now. And these are my father and my mother. I'm showing you my whole history. And this is when they loved each other. Who do I look like? That's me. I began drawing when I was 3 years old, and nobody was paying attention to me. All of a sudden, I was using my parents' newspapers, papers, because they were journalists. And all of a sudden, I entered in their vision. They realized that I existed, and they were very supportive, sometimes too supportive. I had a solo exhibition since I was 10 until I turned 23, and I left for Peru without thinking twice. I wanted freedom. I wanted to meet guys. They never let me have boyfriends. So I left, and I went to the United States. I entered ceramics just by chance because painting, it was what I wanted to do, sort of. And ceramic never made any sense to me. You know, they tried to teach me to do balls, to pinch, do slabs, and it really didn't make, I was not interested in it. And I guess I was a very bad student in my first semester. But in my second semester, when they were trying to tell me that it was wonderful to celebrate the 500th anniversary of Columbus landing in the Americas, I had to say something because I was thinking about it. And this is the very first piece I made. From that time to now, I have the same system of building, which is a very bad system. I just make slabs, I cut them to 2 inches width strips, and I build, and I hope that they don't break during the firing. I go very slow. I am a cultural and racial mix. 5 centuries ago, a handful of Europeans changed the course of Peruvian history through a violent encounter. My work revolves around the consequences of this encounter and the strategies of survival developed by populations against the imposition of a culture over their own. I try to imagine the traumatic experience that the newly colonized endured, particularly its artists. How did they go from geometrical or anthropomorphic depictions of their world in mediums such as clay and textiles to realistic representations of imported deities in materials as foreign as oil painting and plaster? How did they manage? It is hard to summon the horror of a collapsing universe. My first work was basically a series that I titled We the Colonized Ones. Those babies that you see there, I used to take them in the subway in New York, so that I could have the opportunity for people to ask me, what did I have there? They thought I had a child. I opened the bundle, and then they would see it, and they would be a little bit shocked. And then I would have the possibility to talk about what happened and why I wasn't happy about the celebration, because sometimes you have to do something when, when you feel like history is being unfair. So I did a few of these babies, and I went around. This is another piece of that series. Oops, that I didn't expect. Anyway, this is the first piece I did of the series that I have here at the museum, intervening the collection. Plunder Me Baby is not actually inspired by pre-Columbian art, but is a continuation of it. Plunder Me Baby is a series that speaks about colonization and resistance. It is conformed by a group of pre-Columbian, quote-unquote, pieces awakening from a hibernation of centuries to a reality that confuses and horrifies them. Not anymore accomplishing the purpose of their creation, they find themselves decontextualized in museums of anthropology or archaeology, vulnerable to an audience they don't recognize and with which they cannot identify. Plunder Me Baby's installation pieces have titles of their own. Such titles begin with a racial slur and are followed by commentaries underlining the racial tensions that exist in societies where colonization has shaped their psyche. Next is the culture and date of creation for each piece is based in actual ceramic pieces from diverse cultures from Meso and South America, but mostly from Peru. You can see on the right, most of the photographs have the pieces that I have based my work on. You see, they all have my faces because since they have slurs as titles, I had to take the names and take responsibility for them. If I put somebody else's face, it would have been as if I were insulting them. It had to be me. They have been exhibited in Peru and in the United States. Some of the pieces are in museums now. I cannot even see them anymore. And this exhibition was at the Nerma Museum of Contemporary Art in just last year of Plunder Me Baby. And as you can see, some of the pieces there are here now. This is my second time in Asia. I was in South Korea last year, which was also a wonderful experience. And this is an ongoing series, Corpus. If the translator could read it, I would appreciate that. Can you read it? You don't see it? Oh my goodness. Corpus consists of 15 ceramic sculptures being developed as part of an ongoing investigation about aesthetics, cultural survival, and inheritance. It aims to visually narrate the history of Peru, combining pre-Columbian and colonial sensibilities through syncretism. The objective is to artistically highlight the impact of colonization in the aesthetics of Peru as an attempt to understand its consequences in contemporary culture. Corpus is based on 15 Catholic icons that conform the religious festivity known as Corpus, carried on since 1572 in Cusco, Peru. The final presentation is an installation of the ceramic figures on tables as it is tradition when the Catholic icons stay overnight in the Cathedral of Cusco. It has been shown as work in progress in Lima and South Korea. In this work, I'm trying to combine two aesthetics that are impossible to combine. And my purpose is not to actually be successful, but just to show it as a metaphor of the cultural tensions that we live, that we are. All these photographs are from when they were in Korea. And in Peru. And I got a grand prize. And I think that's all. I just wanted to be brief. Thank you.
Thank you, Kukuli. If I may speak from a personal perspective, we're now seeing perhaps the role of the museum taking a role both in post-industrialization and post-colonialism in terms of the delicate questions that artists may be the right people to ask and answer. That might be something to carry forward for our discussion. Could I now please introduce Jimena Ducci, who will speak now. Thank you.
Hello. This is ceramics from the end of the world. This is Santiago, the city where I come from. Chile, my country, is far away from Taiwan, and there is an immense cultural difference between them. However, we can find common circumstances. Both countries belong to the Pacific Ring of Fire. These unite us. We both have mountain landscapes and the constant possibility of experience the power of nature. Earthquake, volcanic eruptions, and tsunamis seems to be happening all the time in Chile. Overcoming the force of nature have been our fate. Both countries also have a large portion of land facing the vastness of the Pacific. Taiwan is an island, and we could also say that living in Chile is like living on an island. It is a territory conditioned by its extreme bounds. Chile is a long, narrow strip of land located at the western edge of South America, but it's also separated from the continent by the imposing Andes Mountains that mark our eastern border all over our territory. My country has its roots in the Atlantic ices in the south, and in the north, it has the driest desert in the planet. On the east side, we have a long coastline facing the coldest currents of the Pacific Ocean. I believe that this condition marked the expression of culture and arts in Chile throughout times. Our landscape is our truest and deepest identity. In the Atacama Desert, in the north of the country, the earliest Chilean pre-Columbian pottery was found. In this hostile, deserted area, the Aborigines, Diaguitas, Aymaras, and Atacameños settled. The ceramics done by the Diaguitas are most known for their decorative geometric designs in red, black, and white. The Incas from Peru influenced their work. The Mapuches, our most important native people, occupied the central territory of Chile. Their intrinsic love for their land made their development without interfering the landscape. In order to defend their worldview, they were great warriors. Their pottery usually represents anthropomorphic and zoomorphic forms, giving a special symbolic and ritual value to their utilitarian pots. Folk pottery has had a constant presence in Chile since Spanish colonial times, with a wide variety of characteristics along the country. Despite the continued threat of being displaced by foreign, modern, and industrial utilitarian products, it still endures centered in the traditional pottery-producing villages. In Quinchamalí, the smoke gives the lustrous black finish that characterize that pottery, with decorative vegetal elements painted in white on the surface. Pomaire is a town near Santiago where they work the red clay, making all kinds of utilitarian pottery with a lot of animal figures. Talagante's pottery is colorfully painted, representing craft, typical festivities, and scene of everyday life of their environment. The extreme condition of nature, the geographical isolation of Chile, and the overrating of cultural expression coming from abroad led for a long time to consider local ceramics as a craft activity, a minor form of art, blurring the roots of popular ceramics. Nowadays, the value of this traditional pottery has been rescued and reconsidered, giving a new opportunity to voice its identity. Besides the folk pottery, an important input to Chilean ceramics occurred when an industrial ceramic factory was established to give work to the wife of the coal miners in Lota in south-central Chile. They brought European models to produce functional and decorative chinaware from 1940 to 1952. In the last 30 years, the studio ceramist, the potter who works with the wheel or models and fire unique pieces in close connection with design, has revitalized the context of urban ceramics. Today, ceramics is enjoying a generalized renaissance in our culture after years of relative obscurity. Curators are paying more attention to this ancient achievement, and at last, pottery has permission to imitate and surpass its purely utilitarian character to enter into a clearly artistic space. Ruth Kraukoff, Chilean artist, studied with Peter Vulkos in the USA in the 70s. She returned to Chile with that steed to create the Wara Wara workshop. We have benefited from her immense contribution through teaching, exhibitions, publications, and exposure of national artists to major international masters of ceramics invited to different workshops in Santiago. In the Wara Wara workshop, besides the sculptors, there are people working with the wheel and modeling utilitarian pottery. Also, more workshops were established by these students and other ceramics artists. In addition to the exhibition in art galleries, Chilean contemporary ceramics today have been introduced into the most important museums. Ruth Kraukoff showed a big retrospective of her ceramic work in the Museum of Visual Arts in Santiago in 2011. Also, the National Museum of Fine Art presents a large Benjamin Lira exhibition with his painting and ceramic sculptures in 2012. Now, the globalism we experience has decreased the feeling of remoteness and isolation for Chileans, and especially for Chilean artists. Our point of reference has expanded. Anyways, our natural surroundings keeps us tuned in with a constant confirmation of the environment's continuous mutability and our vulnerability as human beings. The work of several contemporary ceramic artists in Chile have appeared in Esteca, the magazine that a group of members from Guara Guara first published in 2006. Esteca's mission is to rescue, give visibility, and project the ceramics renaissance in Chile, as well as in Latin America, linking its roots to the cutting-edge ceramics of the world. I feel honored to have been invited to this important biennale as the editor-in-chief of Esteca magazine, but I am also a ceramic artist, and I would like to show you some of my work. I worked for several years on the house image as my primary theme. In order to let you know what this means to me, I will read what I wrote for my solo exhibition. Inevitably, we together inhabit this planet. Inevitably, too, we all inhabit ourselves in complete solitude in our own body. Between these two extreme and inevitable realities, by choice, we live in a house. It is a simple and ancestral shared image. It keeps its purity beyond times and frontiers. The house, as a symbol, brings to mind rest, consolation, shelter, protection, intimacy, privacy, and secrecy. It symbolizes the human dream of refuge and peace. The house is a space where we unfold our biological life, and for me, this has an equivalent inside ourselves, where we all bring about our spiritual being. Today, I'm working in another subject that I never showed at all: volcanoes. The series of volcanoes, as well as the undermentioned series of houses, share the idea of the art object both as a symbol and as a mirror. As a symbol, I adopt forms recognized by all, and as a mirror, it reflects each observer in his or her personal, intimate meanings. As I have said, I was born in Chile, a country of mountains. The great immutable presence has marked me, contemplating the eternity, purity, and enigmatic silence. But the paradox exists. Mountains, especially volcanoes, are alive with their inner strength and capacity of movement. Their transformation power is there, latent, beating, secretly behind a peaceful bulk. Somehow the volcano becomes the house of the gods. At the same time,